No, my mom has always, since I was a kid, even before I can remember, I'm sure, told me to always listen to my gut, always listen
Mine
to my
too.
intuition.
Mine too.
They knew, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
They already knew, but she never touched on the anxiety part, the worry part, and that's not your gut. Those are two different, things. That's our brain translating, trying to fight or flight, right?
Hmm.
Hmm.
Like, so we have decided since evolution, we're not in the wild anymore. Now other things cause us anxiety that makes our system feel like it has to fight for its life, but it really doesn't. So the hard part was now understanding that my anxiety is not my intuition. Those are
Mm.
two completely different things for two completely different reasons. You know what I mean? So that was the toughest part, but I never had any problem listening to my gut intuition. I was actually the lame kid for listening to my intuition. Hey
I
guys,
was too. I was a scary one. You always scary. I damn sure am right because my stomach is hurting. Like
exactly,
my stomach
exactly.
hurts. We need to
And I
go.
was completely opposite from y'all. Like I never in my oh, I'm 34. So in my 33 years of being on this earth, like I did not listen to my body and my intuition and my gut. Like I've always logically reasoned with everything. So now that I'm moving and leaning more towards that and getting to know her, it's almost like, initially it was foreign. Like it was, not necessarily like that, like somebody that you meet and you like, damn, I known you all my whole life, like you feel connected with it, but the voice was different. And that, I'm still getting used to that. And I'm still like, okay, my intuition would say one thing, and then my brain would, come up with, that sponsoring thought. And I would like have to stop because I don't really like I don't really know. I'm so confused as to like which way to go. So I always kind of find comfort in going back to like, okay, what was the first thought that popped into my head? Because that's God, that's my higher self, that's my intuition, and I just kind of go with that. And it always feels so wrong, but it always turns out to be so right.
Yeah,
So
but that's just because we've been trained to think that it's wrong, right?
Mm,
Especially,
yeah.
yeah, especially with the whole, like the whole being in love and all that good stuff. I know my mom didn't really like go into like she didn't like beat it over my head like, oh my God, trust your gut. But she did used to say that to me a lot. But the reason why she used to say it was kind of rooted in religion. She would say, you can't you have to trust your gut. You don't trust your heart because your heart is deceptive. Like
mm,
your heart is very, very deceptive. And I'm young, so I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? My heart deceptive. Okay. So 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 when I would be, I guess in my feelings, so to speak, like I would always either, stay in my feelings and that would cause me additional worry or, get lean into my intuition. And the thing that's, you kind of touched on it, Brittany, about like trusting your intuition is something that has to be like honed and practice and
Yeah.
you know
for sure.
yeah, it's not like like it's a bike. You got a bike, right? Everybody got a bike. It got two wheels. But if you don't get on the bike, fall off the bike, get back,
Hmm.
dust yourself off, get back on the bike, you're not gonna learn how to ride the bike, so to speak. So, like I always knew that it was there. It was just kind of like if I were to trust it as much as I know that I should trust it, like if I'm gonna look up and like I'm gonna be the oddball out, and then here I am 40 years later, 39 years around the sun, 40, going on, but looking up and I'm like I was that person. I was hella popular in school, hella popular. Didn't really know why I was popular. Just people just flocked to me, and I'd be like, oh, okay, whatever. But now that I'm actually like leaning into my intuition and leaning into myself, my intuition is like, be careful about yourself. Be protective of yourself. Be protective of your energy. Maybe not say this, maybe say this. So it's been a little bit different. I know with the mistaken zygotes, which I didn't really get from the Audible. I didn't, and I need to go back and like listen to it again. But she said that it was a point to where they just got super duper like hella happy on, you know, the road to where they were going, and they just jumped out of the basket. And so that kind of like struck me out, like, okay, so if y'all knew that you were going to a family that, or to, you know, to the home that you were supposed to be in, why would you intentionally jump out and then just be pretty much stuck with some people that, or stuck in a situation where people they wouldn't know how to water you, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, have you ever kind of explored that or thought about that, like we chose this? Because that's where I went.
It's the thrill.
Yeah, that's where I went. I was like, damn, I signed up for this. I jumped out. I sure did. I did. Raise a bird and all. I did.
She said that too. Like, don't let the thrill, you know, take you away. She even talks about it in the red shoes. I don't know if you guys got that far.
No, the audio didn't talk about red shoes.
The red
Oh, well, there's a girl who, I'm just going to sum it up, who basically has red shoes. She goes to live with this woman. The woman refuses to give her the red shoes, right? So this person is denied something that they created. And so she'll do anything for the shoes. A guy gifts her with the shoes. And when she puts them on, she can't stop dancing, right? Now, the grandmother told her, don't get these shoes, but it's the thrill. Like, I need, like, I'm going to get the shoes. We took them away. So she puts the shoes on her feet and she cannot stop dancing no matter what she does. Like, so eventually she has to get her feet chopped off.
because she was dancing too much in the damn shoes.
Like, she begged for it at that point, right? So sometimes when we have lacked something, we will deter ourselves in a way from getting what we actually want. It happens a lot. It happens often. It's self-sabotage almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. And when you were talking about it, it took me back to, like, you know, those teenage years where, you know, your mom or your parents tell you to do one thing and you just have to do completely opposite because you feel like you know better. You feel like, you know, this isn't going to happen to me. I'm invincible. Or you're looking at, like, your peers and people around you, you know, and their circumstances and their situations. It looks, you know, very, like, fun and oh my God, but you know, like, on the inside, right, on the inside of that, it's like, you know, what do they have to give up in order to have that lifestyle, or, you know, enjoy whatever, you know, fruits of whatever it is that they're enjoying. So, yeah, I mean, definitely. And I also think that we need that rebellion, and we need those, you know, sometimes our legs chopped off and stuff, because it kind of molds us into who we are today. You know what I mean? Like, so kind of you have to accept the good with the bad almost, and not a lot of people like the bad and the ugly parts and the crying and, you know, and all of that part, but you have to embrace those experiences just as much as you embrace, like, anything else. So.
Absolutely. And she just warns, right? Like, all right, you can do these things, just don't go too far because then it will be harder to get back to the wild, you know, being that you are. But yeah, it's still necessary. It's very necessary.
Yep.
So the second question that we had is, the captured woman is a woman who is talented and gifted, but has ties to people who dim their flame, and pretty much she loses her permission to be. So how has society or close relationships that you've been in caused you to dim your light? How long was the process, and how did you find your way back?
Ooh, I mean, I say, like, from a child, like, my first memory of my light being dim was just by, like, comments of men. Little comments. It could be like, you know, you would be prettier if your hair was like this, or if I could be more
light skin.
Oh, exactly. You know what I mean? Or if you were taller or smaller or anything like that. But really just I specifically remember my mom did a very fantastic job of making sure that I never felt like, of making sure that I knew that I was who I thought I was, right? But when you hear it from your mom, it's just like, mom, it's just because you're my mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I was 10, my dad ended up leaving. And so for me, I was this confident kid. And then suddenly my light started to diminish, because as a kid, you think, okay, well, what did I do, you know,
Mm.
to make this thing happen? And unfortunately, so I literally connect to the skeleton woman. And this is a story inside of the book. And it says that a woman's father threw her over the cliff because basically she couldn't be what he wanted her to be. And so she ended up becoming a pile of bones at the bottom of the ocean. And a fisherman ends up fishing, and she gets caught in his hook. I don't want to tell the entire story because I really want people to read this story, but basically to me it really can start with the first man that's in your life, that diminishing of the light. And fathers have to be very careful with the way that they move, because it can cause, and it does cause, tons of heartbreak along the line, and what we allow to happen to us, and how we allow people to talk to us, and what who we hang around. Like, I mean, what we want to look like on the inside or the outside, or every single thing. It's just a ripple effect.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like even now, like, they call it daddy issues, but I mean, that's for me, it was literally me allowing myself to lose permission because I was fighting for the attention of a man
Mm.
very early. And so what does that say for the rest of my life, right?
Mm.
Before I went to Jamaica, that was the day that I decided that that would be the end of that, right? I had to acknowledge what was going on for me to decide, okay, you have to let that part of you go and acknowledge it. And I'm not going to say forget, but forgive forgive the people who probably didn't even know what they were doing, you
Yep.
know, in order to get that light back.
Yep.
Otherwise, it'll be diminished forever. And then what, you know?
Yeah. I agree.
Hmm.
I agree. Um, Jabri, do you have stories where you could remember when your light started to get
Um,
dimmed?
I would have to say around like 12. And mine, I think it was diminished eh, from just overall familial stuff. It wasn't like, oh my God, it is from my dad, one particular incident, or from my mom. It was just, I'm an only child, and I'm different, right? And my parents poured into me, but like you said, it's different when it's coming from your parents, because I always felt like, man, y'all gotta say this shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all have to say I'm amazing, because if I ain't shit, y'all ain't shit. That's what, literally, that's what I thought when I was like 6. I was like, okay. You know what I'm saying? If I'm not going, okay, cool. So, yeah, I mean, that's just kind of how I felt in that situation. Um, I don't know. I mean, it always felt like I was just all like I've always just been there. You know what I'm saying? Or like I wasn't there. Like people was going through things around me, and they were like, "Yeah, like you were always strewn off over here with your dad, or strewn off over here with your mom." So just that kind of like bounce back and forth and to and fro, and yeah, I had stability, because both my parents provided that, but like it was never stable stability, if that makes sense. So that's kind of when my light kind of started to dim, and when I was just kind of like, well, I know once I get to a certain point in my life, I just have to provide that type of stability, you know what I'm saying, for myself. And then that's where I chose this career to do this, to be able to support myself, to do this, and just be in one place for a year or two, or 5 at one time and be okay with myself and my surroundings. So I would definitely have to say, yeah, around 10 or 12. That's when I was kind of like, yeah, it was kind of muted just a little bit. And then in my adult life,